The hammer fell like a gunshot. Sold 5 children for $200 to Mr. Sterling, Silver Creek, Montana, July 15th, 1887. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun beat down on the town square like judgment itself. 50 people gathered around the auction platform, fanning themselves with newspapers, sipping warm beer, watching 5 children stand on a stage built for livestock. Claire Bennett was 12 years old. She stood in front of her siblings, hands clasped behind her back to hide the shaking. Her dress had been blue once. Now it was the color of dust and desperation. Behind her, Daniel stood with fists clenched, 10 years old, and furious at a world that kept failing them. Michael 8 tried to smile like their mother had taught him, even as tears carved clean lines through the dirt on his face. Lily, only 4, clutched a rag doll with one button eye, humming a song she barely remembered. And Oliver, 6 years old, silent, staring at nothing. He had not spoken in 11 days. Marcus Sterling climbed the platform steps. 52 years old, silver hair, pomaded back vest stretched tight across his belly. He owned 3 textile mills, 2 mining operations, and the largest house in Silver Creek. His smile never reached his eyes. "These are the Bennett orphans," Mrs. Beatrice Whitmore announced from beside the children. She ran the St. Vincent Home for Displaced Youth in Helena. Her dress was black bombazine, her face powder white in the heat. She had a voice like iron scraping stone. Mother died of consumption 3 weeks past. No living relatives. All healthy, all capable of work. Sterling walked down the line, inspecting them like horses. He stopped in front of Daniel. "This one looks like a troublemaker." "He requires firm guidance," Mrs. Whitmore said. "Nothing a proper work schedule cannot correct." Sterling moved on. He paused at Oliver, snapped his fingers in front of the boy's face. Oliver did not react, did not blink, did not acknowledge the man existed. "What is wrong with this one?" "Shock from the mother's death. The physician says it will pass." "And if it does not," Mrs. Whitmore's smile was thin as paper, "then he will learn to be useful in other ways. Silent workers ask no questions." Sterling nodded. He had a contract with 3 factories. Small fingers worked looms better than adult hands. Children ate less, complained, less cost less. $200 for 5 workers. He would make that back in 2 months. "I will take them all," Sterling said. "My mills always need fresh hands." The hammer rose. Claire felt her breath stop. This was it. The end. They would be separated, worked forgotten. She had promised Mama, promised they would stay together, promised they would be okay. But standing on this platform with the sun burning down and the hammer about to fall, Claire knew she was about to break that promise. The hammer started to drop. "Wait!" The word cut through the crowd like a blade. Everyone turned. A man stood at the back of the square, tall, broad-shouldered, face weathered like old leather, dark beard streaked with gray. He wore dusty work clothes, boots worn thin at the heels, a hat pulled low against the sun. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, and there was something in them that made people step aside without knowing why. Ethan Mercer, 39 years old. He had not left his ranch in 6 months, had not spoken to another human being in 3, had not smiled, not truly smiled in 5 long years. He had come to town for supplies: flour, salt, coffee beans, the basics of survival. He had been loading his wagon when he heard the auctioneer's voice drifting across the square. Children for sale. He had told himself to keep walking. This was none of his business. He had enough ghosts haunting his nights. He did not need more. But then he had seen them, 5 children on a platform. And the little one, the girl with blonde curls and a one-eyed doll, she had looked at him. 4 years old, the same age Grace had been. Grace, his daughter, dead 5 years, buried on the hill behind his house next to her mother. The fever had taken them both in 3 days. Sarah first, Grace 2 days later. Ethan had dug the graves himself, built the coffin, stood in the rain, as the preacher read words that meant nothing. He had not cried, had not screamed, had simply walked back to his empty house and started dying slowly, one day at a time. 5 years, and in all that time he had felt nothing, no anger, no joy, no hope, just the hollow ache of breathing when you had no reason to breathe, until now, until he looked at that little girl and saw Grace looking back, saw 5 children about to be sold like cattle, saw himself in their eyes, lost and desperate, and certain no one cared. His feet moved before his mind caught up. "I said wait," Ethan called again, louder this time. He pushed through the crowd. People recognized him, whispered his name. Ethan the hermit, Ethan the broken, Ethan who lost everything and never recovered. Sterling's face flushed red. "This auction is concluded." No, it is not. Ethan climbed the platform steps. Up close the children looked worse. Hollow cheeks, sunburned skin, clothes that hung loose on frames too thin. How long since they had eaten a real meal? How long since anyone had shown them kindness? "I will give you $300, Ethan said. The crowd gasped. $300 was 6 months' wages for most men. It was enough to buy a horse, a plow, a year of supplies. Sterling laughed. "You expect me to believe you have that kind of money? I have my ranch." Ethan's voice was flat, certain. 60 acres, house, barn, livestock, worth $800 at least. I will put it up as collateral. "You would bet your entire property on 5 orphans you have never met." Ethan looked at the children again. The girl Claire was staring at him with wide eyes. The angry boy Daniel watched him with suspicion. The cheerful one Michael was smiling through tears. The tiny blonde girl Lily tilted her head like she was trying to understand. And the silent boy Oliver, his eyes unfocused, lost inside his own head. 400, Sterling snapped. He wanted these children, wanted their labor, wanted to win. 500, Ethan said. And my ranch is guarantee. Every acre, every building, everything I own. Silence fell over the square. Mrs. Whitmore stepped forward. "Mr. Mercer, these children are wards of the state. Are you certain you understand what you are offering?" "I understand perfectly." Ethan turned to her. "I am offering them a home." Sterling's face twisted with rage. $500 was too much, more than the children were worth as workers. But his pride was a living thing, hungry and mean. He opened his mouth to bid again. The auctioneer, an older man named Hobbs, raised his hand. "Mr. Sterling, 500 is beyond reasonable price. The bid goes to Mr. Mercer. This is outrageous. This is business." Hobbs turned to Ethan. "You will have the money by tomorrow. I will have it by tonight." Hobbs nodded. He raised his hammer and brought it down with finality. "Sold. 5 children to Ethan Mercer for $500. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some muttered. Sterling stormed off the platform, shoving people aside. Mrs. Whitmore pursed her lips, clearly displeased, but unable to argue with a legal sale. Ethan stood frozen. What had he just done? He had gambled everything. His home, his land, his last connection to Sarah. For what? For 5 strangers. For a momentary impulse driven by a ghost. Claire stepped forward. She was shaking, tears running down her face, but she held herself straight. "Sir, I do not understand. Why would you do this?" Ethan looked at her, 12 years old and trying to be brave, trying to hold her family together with nothing but will and prayer. He knew that feeling. He had spent 5 years trying to hold himself together with less. "Because someone has to," he said quietly. Then he turned to all 5 of them. "Get your things. We are leaving." "We do not have things," Daniel said. His voice was sharp, defensive. "This is it. This is all we have." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then get yourselves. The wagon is this way." They walked through the crowd in silence. People stared. Some nodded approval. Others shook their heads like Ethan was a fool. Maybe he was. Maybe this was the stupidest thing he had ever done. But as he led 5 orphans toward his wagon, something stirred in his chest. Something small. Something he had not felt in 5 years. It felt almost like purpose. The wagon ride back to the ranch took 40 minutes. No one spoke. The children sat in the back, huddled together despite the heat. Ethan sat up front, reins loose in his hands, mind racing with questions he could not answer. What would he feed them? Where would they sleep? What did children even need? Daniel watched him with hostile eyes. "What do you want from us?" Ethan glanced back. "Nothing. Everyone wants something. No one does nothing for free. I am not everyone." "Then what are you?" Ethan considered the question. What was he? A widower, a father who failed to save his family, a man who had been dead for 5 years and only now realized he was still breathing. "I am someone who knows what it feels like to be alone," Ethan said, "and I would not wish that on anyone." Daniel's jaw worked like he wanted to argue, but he said nothing, just turned away and put his arm around Oliver, who sat motionless, staring at his own hands. They crested a hill. The Mercer Ranch spread out below, 60 acres of grassland and creek water. A 2-room house with a covered porch, a barn that needed repairs, fences that needed mending, chickens scratching in the dirt, 1 old horse standing in the shade. It was not much, but it was home. They pulled up to the house. An old dog limped out from the barn, tail wagging slowly. Whiskey. 11 years old, gray around the muzzle, half blind, and mostly deaf. But loyal. Always loyal. "Is that your dog?" Michael asked. First words from the boy since they left town. "Yes, his name is Whiskey." "Can I pet him?" "After you wash up and eat." Michael's face lit up, like that one promise that one small kindness was the most wonderful thing he had heard in weeks. Maybe it was. Ethan led them inside. The house was sparse, clean but unlived in. 2 rooms, one for sleeping, one for everything else. There was dust on the shelves, dust on the floor, the kind of dust that comes from a man who stopped caring about anything except surviving until tomorrow. "You can put your things there," Ethan said, pointing to a corner. Then he remembered. They had no things. "I mean, you can stay here. The bedroom is yours. I will sleep in the barn." "We cannot take your room," Claire said quietly. "You already have." "But where will you sleep?" "I have slept in worse places." Ethan moved to the stove. "Sit down. I will make food." They sat, all 5 of them around a table meant for 2, watching him like they expected him to change his mind, to turn cruel, to reveal whatever trap this was. Ethan understood. Trust had to be earned, especially from children who had learned that adults could not be trusted. He cooked bacon and eggs, cut bread from a loaf he had baked 3 days ago. It was simple food, but it was real. He placed plates in front of each child, and they stared at the food like they could not believe it was real. "Eat," Ethan said. Michael grabbed his bacon with both hands and bit down. Tears started rolling down his face as he chewed. Not sad tears, grateful tears. Daniel ate slowly, methodically, like he was memorizing every bite. Lily picked at her eggs with tiny fingers, humming that same tuneless song. Claire tried to feed Oliver, cutting his food into small pieces, coaxing him to eat. The boy's mouth opened mechanically. He chewed. He swallowed. But his eyes remained empty. Halfway through the meal, Claire broke. She just stopped, fork in her hand, body rigid. Then all at once she crumpled, face in her hands, sobs shaking her entire frame. "I am sorry," she choked out. "I am so sorry. I tried so hard, but I do not know what to do anymore. I do not know how to keep them safe. I do not know how to make this okay." Ethan stood motionless. He had not comforted anyone in 5 years, had not offered kindness or warmth or reassurance, had forgotten how to do those things. But looking at this 12-year-old girl breaking under the weight of responsibilities no child should carry, he remembered something Sarah used to say. Sometimes you do not need words. Sometimes you just need to be there. He did not move toward her, did not touch her, just spoke quietly. "You already did it. You kept them alive. You kept them together. You brought them here. That is enough." "It does not feel like enough." "It never does, but you did not fail them. You saved them." Lily climbed down from her chair and wrapped her arms around Claire. "Do not cry, Sissy. We are okay now. We have a home." Claire pulled her sister close, crying harder. Daniel looked away, jaw clenched. Michael kept eating tears and bacon mixing on his plate. Oliver sat motionless, staring at nothing. After dinner, the children washed up at the pump. Ethan watched them from the porch. They were so small, so fragile. How had they survived 11 days alone? Where had they walked? What had they endured? The sun was setting, painting the Montana sky in shades of orange and gold. The same sky Sarah and Grace had loved. Ethan used to sit on this porch with them, watching the colors change, listening to Grace ask 1,000 questions about clouds and stars and why the sky was blue. He had not sat here since they died, had not been able to bear it. But tonight, with 5 orphans washing their faces in the fading light, it felt almost okay, almost like coming home. That night the children slept in the bedroom. Ethan gave them blankets, told them where the chamber pot was, told them to call if they needed anything. Then he walked out to the barn-spread hay in an empty stall and lay down with Whiskey curled against his side. He stared at the barn roof, at the gaps between boards where starlight filtered through. What had he done? He had bought 5 children, given up everything he owned. For what? A feeling, a memory of a little blonde girl who had been dead for 5 years. Sarah would have understood. She always said everyone deserved a second chance, even him, especially him. He had spent years as a bounty hunter tracking violent men across Montana territory. 9 men he had killed. Some deserved it. Some he was not sure about. The work had hardened him, made him into something he hated. Then he met Sarah. She saw past the violence to something worth saving. And with her, he had been better. With Grace, he had been whole. When they died, he thought it was punishment, thought he did not deserve happiness, did not deserve a family. The things he had done, the blood on his hands, it came with consequences. And Sarah and Grace had paid the price for his sins. But tonight, lying in the barn with an old dog and 5 orphans, sleeping in his house, Ethan wondered, maybe Sarah had been right. Maybe everyone did deserve a second chance. Maybe even him. He closed his eyes. For the first time in 11 days, 5 children slept safe and warm. For the first time in 5 years, Ethan Mercer felt something other than emptiness. It was not happiness, not yet, but it was something, and something was enough. Morning came with the sound of chickens. Ethan woke in the barn hay in his hair. Whiskey's snoring breaking the silence. For a moment he forgot about the auction, forgot about 5 children sleeping in his house. Then he heard voices, small voices, uncertain voices, and he remembered everything. He found them in the kitchen. Claire had already started a fire in the stove. She was trying to make coffee, hands shaking as she measured grounds. Daniel stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the sunrise like he expected it to bring danger. Michael was outside talking to the chickens in a high, excited voice. Lily sat on the floor with Whiskey, the old dog's head, in her lap. And Oliver stood in the corner motionless, his gaze lost in distance. "You did not have to start breakfast," Ethan said. Claire jumped, nearly dropping the coffee pot. "I am sorry. I wanted to help. We should earn our keep." "You are not servants." "Then what are we?" Ethan paused. What were they? He had not thought that far ahead, had not planned any of this. He had acted on impulse, bought 5 children like they were livestock, and now stood in his kitchen with no idea what came next. "You are safe," he said finally. "That is what you are." Daniel turned from the window. "For how long?" "What? How long until you change your mind? Until this gets too hard? Until you decide 5 orphans are more trouble than they are worth?" The boy's voice was hard, protective. Ethan recognized that tone. He had used it himself once a lifetime ago when trust was a luxury he could not afford. "I do not change my mind," Ethan said. "Everyone says that. Then they do." "I am not everyone." "Prove it." They stared at each other. Daniel 10 years old and furious at the world. Ethan 39 and tired of fighting. But something passed between them in that moment. Not trust, not yet, but acknowledgement. They were both survivors. Both knew what it meant to be let down. "I will," Ethan said quietly. "Every day, for as long as it takes." The first week passed in careful silence. They moved around each other like dancers, learning new steps. Claire cooked, cleaned, apologized constantly for things that did not need apologies. Daniel chopped wood with savage intensity, working until his hands bled like he had to prove his value through pain. Michael adopted the chickens, naming everyone sitting in the dirt and telling them stories about his mother. Lily followed Whiskey everywhere, singing that wordless song, her small hand buried in the dog's fur. And Oliver sat, stood, watched, never speaking, never reacting, present but absent. On the 3rd day, Ethan tried to hand Claire a bowl. His fingers brushed her shoulder. She flinched so violently she dropped the bowl. It shattered on the floor. Claire immediately fell to her knees, gathering pieces, tears streaming down her face. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. I will clean it up. Please do not be angry." Ethan knelt beside her. "I am not angry." "But I broke it. I was careless. I deserve punishment." "You deserve nothing of the kind." He helped her pick up the pieces. "Who told you that you deserved punishment?" Claire's hands shook. "Mrs. Whitmore, at the home. She said we were defective, that no one wanted us, that if we made mistakes we had to be corrected." "Corrected how?" "She had a switch, willow branch. She would make us hold out our hands and then," Claire's voice broke, "she said it was for our own good, that we had to learn discipline." Rage, pure and simple. It flared in Ethan's chest, hot and sudden. He had felt nothing for 5 years. Now he felt fury. This woman, this Mrs. Whitmore who ran a home for displaced children, she had beaten them, told them they were worthless, broken them down until they believed it. "What did she call you?" Ethan asked, voice carefully controlled. "What labels did she give you?" Claire looked at the floor. "She called me the burden, because I was oldest, because I was responsible for the others. And Daniel, the troublemaker, because he talked back, because he got angry. Michael, the broken one, because he talked too much, laughed too much. She said joy was inappropriate for orphans. Oliver, the mute, the useless one. She said he would never be adopted because no one wants damaged goods. And Lily, too young, a liability. She said Lily would probably die before anyone wanted her." Ethan stood slowly, carefully, because the rage inside him was a living thing now, and if he moved too quickly, he might break something, might ride to Helena, might find Mrs. Whitmore and show her what real correction looked like. "Listen to me," he said, voice low and fierce. "You are not a burden. Daniel is not a troublemaker, Michael is not broken, Oliver is not useless, and Lily will not die unwanted. You are children. You are people, and no one gets to tell you otherwise, not here, not ever." Claire looked up at him, eyes wide. "You mean that every word?" For the first time since they arrived, Claire smiled. It was small, fragile, but real. On the fifth day, Oliver wandered into the barn. Ethan was mending a harness when he noticed the boy standing in the doorway, silent as always, looking through rather than at the world around him. Ethan said nothing, did not call to him, did not ask what he wanted, just kept working, letting the boy exist in his own time. Oliver walked deeper into the barn, past the horse, past the tools, to the back corner where Whiskey lay on a pile of old blankets, too tired and too old to follow Lily around anymore. The dog lifted his head as Oliver approached. Tail thumped once, twice. An invitation. Oliver sat down, slowly, carefully, like he was made of glass and might shatter. He reached out one small hand and touched Whiskey's fur. The dog did not move, just watched the boy with patient, cloudy eyes. Oliver's fingers sank into the thick coat. His other hand joined the first. And then, for the first time in 11 days, Oliver's face changed. Not a smile, but something, a softening, a crack in the wall he had built around himself. Michael came running into the barn 5 minutes later, breathless with excitement. "Ethan! Ethan, come see. Oliver is petting Whiskey. He is moving. He is doing something." "I see him," Ethan said quietly. "Should we talk to him? Should we try to make him speak?" "No, let him be. This is what he needs." Michael watched his brother with shining eyes. "I thought he would never be okay again. I thought we lost him when Mama died." "You did not lose him. He just went somewhere you could not follow. But he is finding his way back." "How do you know?" Ethan thought about the year after Sarah and Grace died, the months he spent not speaking, not eating unless he had to, not doing anything except existing in a fog of grief so thick he could barely see through it. He knew because he had been there, still was there in some ways. But standing in this barn watching a silent boy find comfort in an old dog, Ethan felt something shift. Maybe healing did not mean forgetting. Maybe it just meant learning to carry the weight without breaking. "I know," Ethan said softly, "because I have been there too." That afternoon Michael cried, not sad tears, happy ones. He sat in the dirt with the chickens and sobbed, shoulders, shaking hands covering his face. Claire found him first. "What is wrong? Are you hurt?" Oliver touched Whiskey. Michael gasped between sobs. He moved on his own. He chose to do something. Maybe he is not broken. Maybe none of us are broken. Maybe we are going to be okay. Claire knelt beside her brother and pulled him close. They cried together. For relief. For hope. For the tiny, fragile possibility that this might actually work. On the 7th day, Frank Sutton came. It was Sunday afternoon, hot, still, the kind of day that made everything feel heavy and slow. Ethan was teaching Daniel how to shoe a horse, showing him the proper angle for the nail, when he heard the horse, the uneven gait, the clumsy rider. He looked up and cursed under his breath. Frank Sutton, 43 years old, drunk more often than sober, mean when he drank, meaner when he did not. He had been a bounty hunter once, same as Ethan, but Frank had no code, no line he would not cross. They had ridden together exactly once. Ethan had left the partnership after Frank beat a prisoner half to death for sport. Frank rode into the yard on a horse that deserved better. His eyes were bloodshot, clothes, stained bottle visible in his saddlebag. He grinned when he saw Ethan showing tobacco-stained teeth. "Well, well, Mercer the Hermit. Heard you been playing nursemaid. Get off my land, Frank. Now that is no way to greet an old friend." Frank dismounted, stumbled, caught himself. "Just came to see the new family. Make sure you know what you got yourself into." Daniel stepped closer to Ethan, body tense. Claire appeared in the doorway, the other children behind her. Frank's grin widened when he saw them. "Look at all these little rats. You gone soft, Mercer, trading your gun for diapers. Last warning, leave." "What are you going to do? Shoot me? That would be nothing new for you, would it?" Frank turned to the children. "Kids, you know who this man is. You know what he done. Frank, so help me. He is Ethan, the hunter Mercer. Killed 9 men before he turned 30. Bounty hunter. The kind that did not ask questions first. Just shot and collected the reward after." Daniel's face went pale. Claire pulled Lily back inside. Michael froze. Oliver, standing in the barn doorway, remained motionless. "The Dawson gang," Frank continued, swaying on his feet. 1881, 3 brothers. Ethan tracked them for 2 weeks. Found them in a camp outside Billings. Shot them while they slept. Did not even give them a chance to surrender. "They killed 7 people in a train robbery," Ethan said, voice cold as winter. 2 women and a child among them. "When I found them, they were planning their next job. They were not going to stop. So you were judge and jury decided they deserved to die. They made their choice. I made mine. And the others, Wilson, in Billings Carter, and Helena Jackson in Butte. They all deserve it too." Frank laughed, harsh and bitter. "You killed 9 men, Mercer. 9. Some of them had it coming. Some of them." He paused. "Well, who is to say Daniel took a step back. His eyes, which had just begun to soften toward Ethan, went hard again, suspicious, afraid. "Is it true?" the boy asked. "Did you kill 9 people?" Ethan looked at him, at this child who had been starting to trust, at all of them watching him now with new understanding. He could lie, could minimize, could explain away. But Sarah had taught him that trust without truth was hollow. If these children were going to stay, they deserved to know who he really was. "Yes," the word fell like a stone. "From the time I was 19 until I was 28, I was a bounty hunter. The territory paid for violent criminals brought in, dead or alive. Most of the time, dead was easier. 9 men total. Some were guilty of terrible things. Murder, rape, robbery. They fought when I found them, and I killed them in self-defense. But others?" He paused. "Others, I am not so sure. I was young, angry. I saw the world in black and white. Guilty or innocent, right or wrong. I did not ask enough questions. And when Sarah died, when Grace died, I thought it was punishment. Thought I did not deserve happiness because of the things I had done." "So you are a murderer?" Daniel said flatly. "I was a killer. Whether that makes me a murderer depends on who is doing the judging. And you think you can raise children? You think you are fit to take care of anyone after what you've done?" Ethan felt the old wound rip open. The guilt he carried. The blood that stained his hands no matter how many times he washed them. Daniel was right. What kind of man was he? What right did he have to these children? But then Claire stepped forward, moved between Daniel and Ethan, looked at her brother with steady eyes. "He saved us," she said quietly, when no one else would. "He gave us food, shelter, safety. He has been nothing but kind. Does his past erase that? His past matters. So does his present." Frank laughed again. "Oh, this is rich. The little girl defending the killer. You do not understand, sweetheart. Men like Mercer do not change. The violence is always there, always waiting. One day he will snap, and then—" He snapped his fingers. "You will see what he really is." Ethan pulled his rifle from where it leaned against the barn. He did not aim it, did not threaten, just held it loose in his hands. But the message was clear. "Get off my land." Frank's grin faded. He remembered what Ethan could do with that rifle, remembered the stories, the legends. Ethan, the hunter who never missed, who could draw and fire in less than a heartbeat, who had killed 9 men and walked away every time. "Fine, I am going. But this is not over, Mercer. People need to know what you are, what you've done. These kids deserve to know the truth. They know the truth. Now they get to decide what it means." Frank mounted his horse with difficulty, kicked it harder than necessary, and rode away. Silence filled the yard. Heavy, suffocating. Ethan stood holding his rifle, looking at 5 children who were looking at him like they had never seen him before. Daniel was the first to move. He turned and walked toward the house, shoulders tight, fists clenched. Claire followed. Michael hesitated, then went after them. Lily started crying, ran to Claire. Oliver remained in the barn doorway, watching, always watching. That night, Ethan sat alone on the porch. The sun set in brilliant colors, red and orange and gold, beautiful and terrible at the same time. He had ruined it. 1 week. That was all it took. 1 week, and Frank Sutton, and the truth of who Ethan Mercer really was. He heard footsteps, looked up. Daniel stood there, face unreadable in the fading light. "Can I sit?" Ethan nodded. The boy sat on the porch steps, keeping distance between them. For a long time neither spoke. They just watched the light die and the stars emerge. "Is there more?" Daniel finally asked. "More that you are not telling us?" "Yes, I spent 10 years hunting men. I saw terrible things, did terrible things. Some haunt me. Some I have justified so many times I do not know what the truth is anymore." "Do you regret it?" "Some of it, not all. The Dawson gang, no. They were monsters, but others. There was a man named Wilson. He robbed a stagecoach, shot the driver. But later I learned the driver had killed Wilson's brother. It was revenge, not random violence. Did Wilson deserve to die for that? I still do not know." Daniel was quiet. "Mrs. Whitmore told us we were bad, that we deserved punishment. Is that what you think? That you deserved to lose your family?" "I did, for a long time." And now, Ethan thought about Sarah, about her laugh, her kindness, the way she saw good in everyone, even him. "Now I think punishing yourself is just another way to hide, another way to avoid living. Then why are you still hiding?" The question hit like a fist. Because Daniel was right. Ethan had been hiding for 5 years, hiding from people, from connection, from anything that might require him to feel again. "Because I was scared," Ethan admitted. "Scared that if I let anyone close I would lose them too. Scared that I did not deserve anything good. Scared that the violence I carry inside would hurt someone I cared about. And us? Are you scared of us? Terrified. Daniel almost smiled. Good. We are scared of you too. Guess that makes us even? They sat together as full dark came. Inside, Claire was putting the younger ones to bed. Her voice drifted through the window, reading a story Ethan did not recognize. Michael laughed at something. Lily sang her wordless song. Oliver remained silent, the sounds of a house that was becoming a home. I am not leaving, Daniel said suddenly. I am angry. I am scared. I do not trust you yet. But I am not leaving. Because Claire is right. You saved us when no one else would. And maybe that matters more than what you did before. You do not have to decide now. I am not deciding for me. I am deciding for them. They need this, need you, and I will protect them from anyone who tries to hurt them, including you if it comes to that. Fair enough. But I want the truth, all of it. No more secrets. If we are going to stay, I need to know who you really are. Ethan looked at this boy 10 years old, and carrying the weight of a family on his narrow shoulders, he saw himself in Daniel. The anger, the protectiveness, the desperate need to control something in a world that felt chaotic and cruel. Then you will have it. Every truth, every scar, every mistake. I will not hide from you. Promise on my life. Daniel stood, walked to the door, stopped. Ethan, yes. Thank you for buying us, for bringing us here, for telling the truth. He went inside before Ethan could respond. The door closed, and Ethan sat alone on his porch under the Montana stars, wondering if redemption was real. If a man could carry blood on his hands and still do good, if 5 orphans and an old dog could save someone just as broken as they were. He did not have answers, but for the first time in 5 years, he wanted to find them. 3 days passed in careful peace, the kind of peace that feels fragile like glass held too tight. Ethan taught Daniel how to read sitting at the kitchen table with a worn Bible sounding out words by candlelight. Claire learned to make bread that did not burn. Michael convinced 3 chickens to eat from his hand. Lily sang to whiskey every morning. And Oliver, still silent, began following Ethan around the ranch, a small shadow that never spoke but was always there. Then the riders came. It was morning, July 25th, 10 days since the auction. Ethan was in the barn showing Daniel the proper way to curry a horse when he heard hoofbeats. 3 horses, moving fast. He straightened, instinct taking over. His hand moved to where his gun belt used to hang, found nothing. He had not worn a weapon in 5 years, had buried that part of himself with Sarah and Grace. The riders crested the hill. Even from a distance, Ethan recognized the lead horse, the badge glinting in the morning sun. Sheriff William Garrett, 46 years old, fair but rigid. He enforced the law with the same care a carpenter used to measure twice and cut once, and he was coming here with 2 deputies. Daniel, get inside. Get your sisters and brothers. Keep them there. What is wrong? Law trouble. Go. The boy ran. Ethan walked out to meet the riders, positioning himself between them and the house. The 3 horses stopped 20 feet away. Sheriff Garrett dismounted slowly. His face was apologetic but determined, the face of a man about to do something he did not want to do. Ethan, William, I hoped I would not have to make this ride. Then why are you here? Garrett pulled a folded paper from his vest pocket. Official seal, official words, the kind of document that changed lives, whether you wanted it to or not. I have a writ from the Montana Territory Council on displaced youth. The 5 Bennett children are wards of the state. They must be remanded to the St. Vincent home in Helena for proper placement. The words fell like hammer blows. Ethan felt his chest tighten. I bought them legally. You bought them at auction. That does not grant you guardianship. According to territorial law, orphans must be placed in state-approved facilities unless a formal petition for guardianship is filed and approved by a judge. Then I will file a petition. It takes months. The children cannot remain here during the process. They have to go to Helena, now. Behind Ethan, the front door opened. Claire stepped out, the other children behind her. She looked at the sheriff, at the deputies, at the official paper in Garrett's hand, and her face went white. No, please no. I am sorry, young lady, but the law is clear. The law says we have to go back, Claire's voice cracked. Back to Mrs. Whitmore, back to being beaten and starved and told we are worthless. Garrett's jaw tightened. I do not know what you are talking about. Then you do not know what happens in that place. Daniel stepped forward. You do not know what they do to kids who have no one to protect them. If there is abuse, that is a separate matter. But right now my job is to enforce this writ. Ethan moved between the sheriff and the children. His body language shifted. Not threatening, but absolute. immovable. They are not going anywhere. Ethan, do not make this harder than it has to be. I spent $500 on these children, my entire property as collateral. I am not handing them over because some bureaucrat in Helena decided orphans are property of the state. The law does not care what you spent. The law says these children belong in an institution until someone proves they can provide proper care. I am providing proper care. You are a widower, living alone, no wife, no family, a known history of violence. You really think a judge will grant you custody? The words stung because they were true. Every concern Garrett raised Ethan had already thought. He was not fit to raise children, had no idea what he was doing, was dangerous, damaged, broken. But looking at Claire's terrified face, at Daniel's clenched fists, at Michael trying not to cry, at Lily clutching her doll, at Oliver standing silent and still, Ethan knew one thing with absolute certainty. They were not going back. You will have to arrest me first. Garrett sighed, looked tired. Ethan, I do not want to do that, but I will if I have to. Then do it. But know that if you take these children, you are condemning them to hell, and you will have to live with that. The two deputies shifted in their saddles. One was young, maybe 20. He looked uncomfortable. The other was older, harder. His hand rested on his gun. Garrett noticed, held up his hand to keep them calm. There is no call for weapons here. Then there is no call to take these children. They stood facing each other, old acquaintances, not quite friends, both bound by different codes. Garrett by law, Ethan by something he could not name but felt in his bones. Then another horse appeared on the horizon, not galloping, not hurrying, just moving with the steady confidence of someone who knew exactly where she was going and what she would do when she got there. The rider was a woman, old but upright, sitting in the saddle like royalty. She wore black silk despite the heat. Her hair was silver-pinned in a severe bun. Her face was weathered but beautiful. She radiated authority the way the sun radiated light. Impossible to ignore, impossible to deny. Margaret Callahan, 62 years old, widow of Thomas Callahan, who had owned half the copper mines in Montana before a cave-in killed him, and 14 others. She had inherited everything, wealth beyond measure, influence that reached from Silver Creek to Washington, and a reputation for getting what she wanted when she wanted it, with or without permission. She rode into the yard like she owned it. Perhaps in some ways she did. Her horse stopped beside the sheriff. She looked down at him with eyes that had seen too much and forgiven too little. William Garrett, what brings the law to the Mercer Ranch? Mrs. Callahan, this does not concern you. Everything in this territory concerns me, especially when it involves children and incompetent bureaucrats. I am enforcing a legal writ. A writ issued by whom? Marcus Sterling? Garrett's face twitched. The Council on Displaced Youth, of which Marcus Sterling is chairman. Do you know why Marcus wanted these children, William? To find them proper homes, to sell them to his textile mills. Maggie dismounted with surprising grace. She walked to the sheriff, pulled a folder from her saddlebag, handed it to him. Labor contracts, signed between Sterling's mills and the St. Vincent home. Children placed in factories, working 12-hour days, paid nothing. Legally sanctioned slavery dressed up as charity. Garrett opened the folder, read. His face went from skeptical to shocked to disgusted in the span of 30 seconds. Where did you get this? I have friends in Helena, in Washington, in places you have never heard of. Sterling is trafficking children, William, using state authority to provide cheap labor for his factories, and you were about to help him. The sheriff looked at the children, at Claire, who was watching with desperate hope, at Daniel, fists still clenched, at the 3 younger ones who probably did not understand but knew fear when they felt it. If this is true, if it is, then the writ is based on fraud. The writ is toilet paper, and you know it. Garrett folded the document slowly, looked at Ethan. You have any proof you can care for these children? I have a house, land, food, and a willingness to die before I let anyone hurt them. That is not exactly what judges look for. Then what do they want? Maggie stepped forward. Stability, structure, a proper household with appropriate supervision, all things that can be provided if Ethan has help. She turned to face him. I will move in, serve as household manager, supervise the children's education and welfare, and I will petition Judge Harrison Cole myself for emergency guardianship. Ethan stared at her. Why would you do that? Because I am old, rich, and bored, and because I lost my sons in the war, my grandchildren to scarlet fever, and my husband to grief. I know what it looks like when people need saving, and I know what it costs to ignore that need. I cannot pay you. I do not want your money. I want to do something that matters before I die. Is that acceptable? Ethan looked at the children, at Garrett, at the two deputies, at this strange woman who had appeared like an answer to a prayer he had not known to say. "Yes, it is acceptable." Garrett rubbed his face. "This is irregular." "Everything about this situation is irregular," Maggie said. "But you have a choice. Enforce a fraudulent writ and condemn 5 children to slavery. Or give them 30 days to file a proper petition for guardianship. Which will it be?" The silence stretched. The young deputy shifted nervously. The older one relaxed his hand, moving it away from his gun. Garrett looked at the paper in his hand, at the children on the porch, at Ethan, standing between them like a wall. 30 days, he finally said. "You file a petition for guardianship by August 25th. Judge Cole hears the case. If he denies it, I come back with more than 2 deputies and a piece of paper." "Understood." "Understood," Ethan said. "Mrs. Callahan, you are willing to swear before a judge that you will supervise this household. I will swear before God himself, if needed." Garrett nodded. He remounted his horse. The deputies followed. Before he rode away, he looked at Ethan one more time. "I hope you know what you are doing." "So do I." The 3 riders left. Dust rose behind them, hung in the air, slowly settled. Ethan stood in the yard, heart-pounding hands shaking with adrenaline he had not felt in years. The children rushed out. Claire threw her arms around him. Daniel gripped his shoulder. Michael was crying. Lily clutched his leg. Oliver stood close, not touching, but present in a way he had not been before. Maggie watched them with unreadable eyes. Then she turned and began unpacking her horse. "Well, we have 30 days. We should get started." That afternoon, Maggie took control of the house with the efficiency of a general commanding troops. She moved Ethan's clothes out of the barn and into a small room off the kitchen. She set up a schedule. Meals at fixed times, lessons every morning, chores every afternoon, bedtime at 8. No exceptions. "This is my house," Ethan said, watching her rearrange his life. "This is a halfway house for children fleeing abuse. It needs structure, predictability. They need to know what comes next. Chaos is what they came from. Order is what they need. I am not good at order. Then you will learn, because in 30 days a judge will decide if you are fit to raise these children, and right now, you are not." The words hurt because they were true. Ethan had survived 5 years by avoiding structure, by drifting through days with no plan beyond waking up and going to sleep. But children needed more, deserved more. "What do I have to do?" "Everything I tell you, starting with teaching them proper manners, proper hygiene, proper education. We need to prove you can provide a stable home. That means rules, discipline, consistency. I am not going to beat them. I never suggested you would. But there is a difference between kindness and chaos. These children have had too much chaos. They need to know boundaries. They need to feel safe, and safety comes from knowing what to expect." Over the next 3 days, Maggie transformed the household. She taught Claire how to sew, taught Daniel mathematics, taught Michael to read beyond simple words, taught Lily her letters, and she spent hours with Oliver, not trying to make him speak, just sitting with him in comfortable silence. She also made enemies. On the 3rd day after the sheriff's visit, a man came to the ranch, not on horseback, in a carriage, expensive, well-maintained, pulled by 2 matched horses that cost more than most men earned in a year. The driver stayed on the bench. The passenger stepped out. Marcus Sterling, dressed in a suit despite the heat, hair perfect, shoes polished, smile sharp as broken glass. Ethan met him in the yard. "You are not welcome here. This is still a free country. I can visit where I please." "Not on my land, you cannot." Sterling looked at the house, at the children watching from the windows, at Maggie standing on the porch with her arms crossed. "Mrs. Callahan, I heard you had lowered yourself to become a nursemaid. I did not believe it." "Believe it, Marcus. And know that if you try to take these children, I will bury you so deep in legal trouble you will never see daylight." "I am not here to take anything. I am here to offer Mr. Mercer a deal." "I do not make deals with men like you," Ethan said. "Men like me, I am a businessman, a philanthropist. I provide jobs, support the community. What are you, a hermit with a violent past and delusions of redemption? Get to the point." Sterling smiled wider. "The point is simple. You want to keep these children. I want my reputation intact. We can both get what we want if you cooperate." "Cooperate how?" "Tell Judge Cole that the children came to you willingly, that I never wanted them for labor, that Mrs. Callahan is mistaken about my contracts. In exchange, I will not contest your petition for guardianship." "So you want me to lie?" "I want you to be smart, because if we go to court, I will destroy you. I will bring witnesses who will testify to every man you killed, every violent act, every reason you are unfit to raise children. By the time I am done, Judge Cole will not let you within a mile of an orphan." Ethan stepped closer, not threatening, but present, solid, immovable. You can try, but know this, I have nothing left to lose. My property is already on the line. My reputation was ruined years ago. But these children have everything to lose, and I will not let you take it from them. Then you are a fool. Maybe, but I would rather be a fool with a conscience than a rich man without one. Sterling's smile finally faded. You will regret this, Mercer. I promise you that. He climbed back into his carriage. The driver snapped the reins. They rolled away, leaving ruts in the dirt and malice hanging in the air like smoke. Maggie came down from the porch. He will make good on that threat. I know. He has money, influence. He can hire lawyers who will make you look like a monster. I am a monster. At least I was. No, Maggie's voice was steel. You were a man who did terrible things. There is a difference. Monsters do not feel regret. Do not try to change. Do not spend $500 to save children they have never met. You are not a monster, Ethan Mercer. But Sterling will paint you as one, and we have to be ready. They went inside. The children were at the table pretending to study, but clearly listening. Ethan sat down with them, looked at each face. Claire trying to be brave. Daniel angry and protective. Michael scared but hopeful. Lily confused but trusting. Oliver silent and watching. You heard what Sterling said about court, about what he will do. They nodded. I need you to understand something. This is going to get harder. People will say terrible things about me. Some of them will be true. Sterling will try to make it seem like I am dangerous, like you are not safe here, and I cannot promise he is wrong. I do not know if I am fit to be your guardian. I do not know if I can protect you from everything that is coming, but I can promise you this. I will not stop trying, ever. We know, Claire said softly. Do you? Because I need you to be sure. Need you to understand what you are fighting for. We understand, Daniel said. You gave us a home when we had nothing. You listened when no one else would. You told us the truth even when it hurt. That is more than anyone else has ever done. Michael reached across the table and took Ethan's hand. We are a family now, right? Ethan looked at this 8-year-old boy with his open heart and unshakable optimism. Looked at all of them, 5 orphans and a broken man and an old woman trying to hold it together with nothing but will and hope. Yes, he said, voice rough. We are a family. Oliver, who had been silent as always, stood up, walked around the table, stood directly in front of Ethan, and for the first time in 16 days, the boy's eyes focused, really focused, on Ethan's face, on the man who had bought him at auction, brought him home, given him space to grieve, never demanded anything he could not give. Oliver's mouth opened, closed, opened again. One word, barely a whisper, but clear. Stay. Just that. Nothing else. But it was everything. Ethan pulled the boy into his arms. Oliver did not resist, did not pull away, just let himself be held. And for the first time since Sarah died, Ethan Mercer wept. Not from grief, from something else, something he had forgotten existed. Hope. 20 days passed, 20 days of routine and ritual. Wake at dawn, lessons with Maggie, chores in the afternoon, dinner together, stories by lamplight, sleep in beds that felt safer each night. The children were changing. Claire stopped apologizing for existing. Daniel smiled occasionally, though he tried to hide it. Michael talked less about the past and more about tomorrow. Lily stopped asking when they would have to leave, and Oliver spoke 3 more words in those 20 days. Home. Safe. Papa. That last one nearly broke Ethan. He had not been called Papa in 5 years. Grace had called him that. In her small voice full of trust and love and certainty that her father could fix anything. Oliver said it differently, quieter, more fragile, but the trust was the same. Then, on August 24th, the night before the hearing, Daniel vanished. Ethan discovered it at midnight. He could not sleep, mind churning with everything that could go wrong tomorrow. He got up to check the children, a habit he had developed over the past weeks. Claire, Michael, Lily, and Oliver all slept in the bedroom. But Daniel's bedroll was empty, cold. He had been gone for hours. Ethan woke Maggie first. She dressed quickly, face grim. Then Claire. The girl went pale when she saw Daniel's empty bed. Where would he go? Ethan asked. I do not know. He has been quiet the past few days. Distant. I thought he was just worried about the hearing. Has he said anything? Anything about leaving? Claire's face crumpled. 2 nights ago. He said maybe it would be better if he left. Said he was the troublemaker. Said Sterling would use him against you. I told him he was wrong. Told him we were stronger together. I thought he believed me. Ethan felt cold fury mixing with hot panic. This boy, this 10-year-old child, he thought he was protecting his family by disappearing, thought he was the problem, the burden, the reason they might lose everything. I know where he went, Claire whispered. Mama? He went to Mama's grave. The cemetery was 20 miles northeast, a small plot on a hill outside Helena where Ruth Bennett had been buried 3 weeks earlier. It would take hours to walk there, hours in the dark alone following memories back to the last place he had seen his mother alive. Ethan saddled the horse. Maggie stayed with the other children. Claire came with him, riding behind, arms wrapped tight around his waist. They rode through the night, through moonlight and shadow, through grassland that whispered in the wind. Neither spoke. There was nothing to say that would make this better. They found him just before dawn. Daniel sat beside a simple wooden cross marking his mother's grave. No stone, no elaborate marker, just rough wood with her name carved by an unsteady hand. Ruth Bennett, 1849 to 1887, beloved mother. The boy sat with his knees pulled to his chest, face buried in his arms, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Ethan dismounted slowly, approached carefully, sat down beside the boy without touching him. Claire stayed back, giving them space. The eastern sky was lightning gray, giving way to pink and gold. "I am sorry," Daniel choked out. "I am so sorry." "For what?" "For running. For being weak. For being the reason you will lose today. You are not the reason for anything except making this family stronger." "No!" Daniel lifted his face. Tears carved clean paths through the dirt on his cheeks. "No, I am the troublemaker. Everyone says so. Sterling will tell the judge about me, about how I get angry, how I fight, how I do not trust anyone. And the judge will say I am too damaged. And you will lose all of us because of me." Ethan let the words hang in the air, let them settle. Then he spoke quietly, carefully, like he was diffusing a bomb. "When Sarah died, I thought it was my fault, thought I had brought death to my door because of the men I had killed, thought I was being punished. So I pushed everyone away, hid on this ranch, stopped living. Because if I was alone, I could not hurt anyone else, could not fail anyone else. Do you understand what I am saying? That you were scared? That I was a coward? I let fear make my decisions, let guilt tell me I did not deserve happiness. And I spent 5 years dying slowly because I believed the lie that I was too wounded to heal." Daniel stared at him. "But you are not broken anymore. I am still scarred, but I am learning that scars do not mean useless. It just means I have scars, and scars are proof that something hurt you but did not kill you. What if the judge thinks I am too damaged? Then the judge is a fool. Because you, Daniel, are the strongest person I have ever met. You held your family together for 11 days when you had nothing. You walked through heat and hunger and fear. You protected your siblings when grown men would have given up. That is not weakness. That is courage. But I ran away. You tried to protect your family the only way you knew how. That is what strong people do. They sacrifice themselves for the people they love." Ethan paused. "But here is what you need to understand. Real strength is not about being alone. It is about letting people help you, letting people carry the weight with you. And right now, I need you to let me help. Let me fight for you, for all of you. Will you do that?" Daniel's face twisted. More tears came. Harder now, the kind of crying that had been held back too long, the kind that came from places deeper than words. He turned and buried his face in Ethan's chest. Ethan wrapped his arms around the boy and held him while he broke, while he released all the fear and anger and desperate hope he had been carrying since his mother died. Claire came over, knelt beside them, put her hand on her brother's back. The three of them sat there as the sun rose over Ruth Bennett's grave, as light spilled across the Montana grassland, as a new day began, uncertain and terrifying and beautiful all at once. "I am sorry, Mama," Daniel whispered to the grave. I tried so hard." "She knows," Claire said softly. "She knows, and she is proud of all of us." "How do you know?" "Because she told me, right before she died. She said you were the bravest boy she ever knew, said I should always trust you, always believe in you. And she was right." Daniel pulled back, looked at his sister, then at Ethan. "If we go back now, will we make it to the hearing?" "We will make it," Ethan said, "even if I have to carry you. I can ride. I am not that weak. I know you are not." They mounted the horse. Daniel rode in front, Claire behind Ethan, all three connected by touch and trust, and something stronger than blood. They rode back toward the ranch as the sun climbed higher. They rode toward a hearing that would decide everything. They rode toward whatever came next, together. When they arrived home, Maggie had breakfast ready. The other children swarmed Daniel, asking questions, expressing relief, showing the kind of love only siblings understand. Oliver, still mostly silent, walked up to Daniel and took his hand. Just held it. The gesture said everything words could not. At 9 o'clock, they dressed in their best clothes. Maggie had sewn new shirts for the boys, pressed Claire's dress until it looked almost new. Lily wore a ribbon in her hair. Even Ethan put on a vest he had not worn since Sarah's funeral. They looked like a family, felt like one. But looking and feeling meant nothing if the judge disagreed. The ride to Silver Creek took an hour. The town was busy, people stopping to watch as Ethan drove the wagon through the main street. 5 children and 2 adults. Everyone knew where they were going. Everyone knew what was at stake. Some faces were sympathetic, others hostile. Sterling had been busy spreading poison-turning public opinion. The courthouse sat above the general store, small, simple. Wooden benches worn smooth by decades of judgment. When they entered, the room was already half full. Reverend Cross sat in the front, Dr. Peterson beside him. Sheriff Garrett stood in the back, face neutral, and in the front row, perfectly dressed, perfectly composed, sat Marcus Sterling with his lawyer, Charles Whitmore. Judge Harrison Cole presided from behind a desk that had seen better days. 61 years old, wire-rimmed spectacles, face like weathered stone. He looked at the children, at Ethan, at Maggie, and his expression revealed nothing. This court is now in session. We are here to determine whether Ethan Mercer should be granted emergency guardianship of Claire Daniel Michael Lilly and Oliver Bennett. He paused. Before we begin, does anyone wish to contest this petition? Sterling's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we do. The room tensed. Ethan felt the children press closer. Maggie's hand found Claire's shoulder. The lawyer opened a folder, pulled out papers that looked official and damning. The petitioner, Ethan Mercer, has a documented history of violence. Between 1876 and 1885, he killed 9 men while working as a bounty hunter. While some killings were justified, others remain questionable. Is this the type of man who should raise vulnerable children? He is not that man anymore, Maggie said sharply. Mrs. Callahan, you will have your chance to speak, Judge Cole said. Continue, Mr. Whitmore. Furthermore, Mr. Mercer is a widower living alone. He has no experience raising children, no female presence in the household to provide maternal guidance. And he operates a working ranch that poses numerous dangers to young children: livestock, tools, weapons. The environment itself is unsuitable. Mr. Mercer, how do you respond? Ethan stood. His mouth was dry. His hands wanted to shake, but he forced them still. Your Honor, everything Mr. Whitmore said is true. I did kill 9 men. I am a widower. I have no experience. But I have something more important than experience. I have willingness. These children were being sold to a man who wanted to use them for labor. I bought them to give them a home. And in the past 3 weeks, they have been fed, clothed, educated, and safe. That has to count for something. It counts for good intentions. But good intentions do not raise children. Structure does. Stability does. Can you provide those things? I can with help. Mrs. Callahan has agreed to supervise the household. She has managed their education, established routines, ensured proper care. Together, we can provide everything these children need. Sterling's lawyer smiled like a snake. Your Honor, I have affidavits from 3 citizens of Silver Creek who state that Mr. Mercer is reclusive, antisocial, and potentially dangerous. He has not participated in community life for 5 years. He speaks to no one, trusts no one, and now we are supposed to believe he can suddenly become a responsible guardian. Those citizens are liars bought with Sterling's money, Maggie snapped. I also have affidavits from Reverend Cross, from Dr. Peterson, from Sheriff Garrett himself, all stating that Ethan Mercer, despite his past, has shown nothing but integrity and kindness to these children. Judge Cole held up his hand. Enough. Before I hear more arguments, I want to hear from the children themselves. The room went silent. This was it. The moment everything would be decided. Not by lawyers or witnesses or documents, by 5 children who would have to stand before a judge and a room full of strangers and speak truth about their lives. Claire stood first, walked to the front, stood straight despite the trembling in her hands, looked directly at Judge Cole. Your Honor, my name is Claire Bennett. I am 12 years old. For 11 days after my mother died, I tried to keep my family together. 12 people turned us away. They called us burdens, trash, mistakes. They said no one would want 5 orphans. And I started to believe them, started to think maybe we were the problem, maybe we deserved to be separated, maybe we deserved nothing. Her voice grew stronger. Then Mr. Mercer saw us at the auction. He did not know us, did not owe us anything, but he spent everything he had to save us. And when we got to his ranch, he did not treat us like servants or property. He treated us like people, like we mattered. He taught me to cook properly. He told me I was not a burden. He said I was a leader. And for the first time in my life, I believed someone. Tears were forming, but she did not wipe them away. Mr. Sterling wants to take us back to Helena, back to Mrs. Whitmore, who beat us and starved us and told us we were defective. Mr. Mercer gave us hope, gave us family. Please do not take that away." She sat down. Judge Cole's face remained unreadable. "Daniel Bennett." Daniel stood, walked forward with his jaw set, ready to fight. "I did not trust Mr. Mercer at first. I thought he was like everyone else, thought he would use us and throw us away when we became inconvenient. But he proved me wrong. He told me the truth even when it hurt. He showed me his scars, so I would not feel alone with mine. Last night I ran away because I thought I was the reason we would lose today, thought I was too broken to be part of a family. But Pa found me." His voice caught on that word, Pa. "He found me, and he said broken does not mean useless. It just means you survived something hard. And he is right. We are all broken, but we are stronger together than any of us are alone." Daniel looked at Sterling. "That man wanted to buy us for labor, wanted to use us until we broke and then replace us with other children. Pa wanted to give us a home. I know who I choose." He sat. Judge Cole nodded. "Michael Bennett." Michael bounced up, trying to smile despite the fear. "Your Honor, I am 8. I like chickens. Mr. Mercer lets me take care of 15 chickens, and I named all of them, and I feed them every day, and they like me. And Pa says my talking is not annoying. He says it is a gift. No one ever said that before. Everyone always told me to be quiet, to stop bothering people. But Pa listens, even when I talk about chickens for an hour. And that makes me feel like maybe I am okay the way I am." Simple words, honest words. Judge Cole's expression finally softened. Just a little. Lily Bennett, the 4-year-old, walked forward, clutching her one-eyed doll. She stood on her toes to see over the desk. "I like Pa. He reads me stories every night. And he lets me play with whiskey. And he does not yell even when I spill things. Mama would like him. I know she would. Because he is kind. And Mama always said kind people are the best people." She went back to Claire. Judge Cole removed his glasses, cleaned them, put them back on. Oliver Bennett. The room held its breath. Oliver had barely spoken since his mother died. Would he speak now? Could he? Oliver stood, walked to the front. He was so small, so thin. His eyes were still haunted by things no child should see. But he looked at Judge Cole directly. His mouth opened. Everyone leaned forward. "When Mama died, I found her. I called her, but she did not answer. And after that, I could not talk anymore. The words were stuck, trapped, and I thought maybe I would be quiet forever." His voice was soft but clear, every word deliberate. "Pa did not make me talk. He just waited. He let me be with whiskey. He sat with me when I was scared. He said I was safe. And one day the words came back, not all at once, just a little. But they came back because Pa made me feel safe enough to try." Oliver's hands were shaking. "Mrs. Whitmore said I was broken, said no one wants a mute child, said I would probably die in the home because I was useless. But Pa said I was not useless, said I was healing. And he was right. I am not all better yet, but I am better than I was. And that is because of Pa." He looked directly at Sterling. "That man wanted to buy us like animals. Pa saved us like family. Please let us stay." The boy walked back to his seat. Silence filled the courtroom. Absolute silence. Judge Cole stared at the children, at Ethan, at Maggie. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were wet. He looked at Sterling. "Do you have anything to say?" Sterling stood slowly. "Your Honor, these children have been coached, manipulated, taught what to say to win your sympathy, but sympathy is not law. The law says orphans belong in state-approved facilities until proper guardians are found. Ethan Mercer is not a proper guardian. He is dangerous, unstable, and unfit. And you, Mr. Sterling? What are you?" Sterling blinked. "Excuse me." Judge Cole held up a folder. "I received these documents yesterday. Labor contracts between your textile mills and the St. Vincent home. Contracts specifying that children placed in your factories will work 12-hour days for no wages, that they will be housed in company dormitories with minimal food and no education. Contracts that quite frankly describe slavery in everything but name." Sterling's face went white. "Those documents are confidential business agreements. They are evidence of child trafficking, and they make your objections to Mr. Mercer's guardianship rather hollow, do they not?" The courtroom erupted. Sheriff Garrett moved toward Sterling. The lawyer tried to speak, but Judge Cole silenced him with a gesture. "This hearing is about what is best for these children, not about money, not about reputation, not about anything except 5 young souls who deserve safety and love. And after hearing their testimony, I have made my decision." Everyone held their breath. Ethan felt Claire's hand find his. Daniel's hand found his other side. The younger children pressed close. They waited. all of them, for words that would either save them or destroy them. Judge Cole raised his gavel. The sound it would make would change everything. The gavel hung in the air. Time stretched. Every heartbeat felt like thunder, every breath like wind. Judge Harrison Cole looked at the 5 children pressed against Ethan. Mercer looked at Maggie Callahan, standing like a fortress behind them, looked at Marcus Sterling, whose face had gone from confident to pale in the span of 60 seconds. The gavel fell. I hereby grant emergency temporary guardianship of Claire Daniel, Michael Lilly, and Oliver Bennett to Ethan Mercer under the supervision of Margaret Callahan for a period of 6 months. At the end of 6 months, a final hearing will determine permanent custody. The courtroom exploded. Claire collapsed against Ethan, sobbing. Daniel's face crumpled, all his careful control shattering. Michael shouted something incoherent and joyful. Lily clapped her hands. And Oliver, silent Oliver, who had found his voice just minutes before, whispered one word, "Papa." Ethan heard nothing else. Not the cheers from Reverend Cross. Not the applause from Dr. Peterson. Not Sterling's lawyer shouting objections. Just that one word, "Papa," spoken with trust and hope and the kind of certainty that only children possess. He pulled all 5 of them close, these 5 strangers who had become his whole world in 24 days. He held them while they cried, while they laughed, while they finally believed they were safe. Judge Cole banged his gavel again, calling for order. This decision is contingent upon several conditions. Mrs. Callahan will file monthly reports on the children's welfare. Sheriff Garrett will conduct inspections. The children will attend school regularly, and Mr. Mercer will demonstrate consistent, responsible guardianship. Any violation of these terms will result in immediate removal of the children. Is that understood? Yes, Your Honor, Ethan managed. As for you, Mr. Sterling, the judge's voice went cold as winter. You are to have no contact with these children. Furthermore, I am referring your labor contracts to the Territorial Attorney General for investigation. If charges are filed, you will answer for them. Bailiff, escort Mr. Sterling from this courtroom. Sterling stood slowly. His face was red veins visible in his neck. This is not over, Mercer. I have friends, resources. You think you have won? You have only delayed the inevitable. Actually, Maggie said sweetly, you are finished. Those documents the judge referenced, I sent copies to 3 newspapers, the Helena Independent, the Billings Gazette, the Great Falls Tribune. By tomorrow morning, everyone in Montana Territory will know exactly what kind of man you are. Your contracts will be void, your reputation destroyed, your political ambitions dead, and those friends you mentioned, they will abandon you faster than rats, leaving a sinking ship. Sterling's face went from red to purple. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Sheriff Garrett took his arm firmly, but not roughly, and led him toward the door. As he passed Ethan, Sterling leaned close. You will regret this. No, Ethan said quietly. I will not. Sterling was escorted out. The door closed behind him. And with that closing, something shifted in the air. The threat was gone. Not forever, but for now. For today. They had won. Judge Cole stood. Mr. Mercer, a word in my chambers. Ethan followed the judge into a small office behind the courtroom. Books lined the walls. A window looked out on Silver Creek's main street. The judge sat behind his desk, gestured for Ethan to sit across from him. Do you understand what you have taken on? Not entirely, but I am learning. 5 children, 5 traumatized, wounded children who have been failed by every adult in their lives until you. They will test you, push boundaries, regress, have nightmares, struggle with trust for years. Being a parent is not about grand gestures. It is about showing up every single day, even when you are tired, even when you doubt yourself, even when they push you away. Can you do that? Ethan thought about the past 24 days, about teaching Claire to cook without apologizing, about helping Daniel control his anger, about listening to Michael's endless stories, about reading to Lily every night, about sitting in silence with Oliver waiting for words that might never come, but did. I do not know if I can, but I know I will try, every day, for as long as they need me. Judge Cole nodded slowly. That is the only honest answer. Most people would have promised me certainty, sworn they could handle anything. But you told me the truth. That means something. He paused. I lost my own son when he was 8, scarlet fever. My wife never recovered. She died 2 years later, and I have spent the last 15 years wondering if I could have saved them both. So when I see a man willing to fight for children who are not his blood, willing to risk everything for their safety, I pay attention. I am sorry for your loss, and I am sorry for yours. But perhaps that is why we recognize each other. Grief has a way of teaching empathy if we let it. Judge Cole extended his hand. "Do not fail them, Mr. Mercer. Do not make me regret this decision." "I will not." They shook hands. Ethan walked back into the courtroom where his family waited. His family. The word still felt strange, foreign, but increasingly right. The ride back to the ranch was loud and joyful. Michael talked nonstop about everything they would do now that they were staying. Lily sang her wordless song this time, with actual happiness behind it. Claire and Daniel sat close, occasionally looking at each other with expressions of disbelief, like they were afraid to trust this victory. Oliver sat beside Ethan on the driver's bench, not speaking but present in a way he had not been before. Maggie rode her own horse beside the wagon. 6 months. We have 6 months to prove this works. What if it does not? Then we fight again. But it will work. Because it has to. Because these children deserve it. And because you, Ethan Mercer, are more capable than you believe. When they reached the ranch, Whiskey limped out to greet them. The old dog's tail wagged with the enthusiasm of a puppy. The children tumbled from the wagon, surrounding him, petting him, telling him the good news like he could understand. Maybe he could. Maybe dogs understood more than people thought. That night, Maggie cooked a feast. Roasted chicken, potatoes, fresh bread, apple pie made from fruit she had somehow procured. They ate until they were full, then ate more because they could. Because for the first time in their lives, there was enough. Enough food, enough safety, enough love. After dinner, as the sun set and the stars emerged, Ethan found himself on the porch. His porch, the one he had not sat on since Sarah died, the one that had held too many memories. But tonight, it felt different, still haunted, but healing. Claire joined him, sat on the steps. "Thank you." "For what?" "For saving us, for fighting for us, for being the first person who did not give up." "You saved me, too." She looked at him with eyes too old for 12. "I know. Maggie told me. About your wife and daughter. About how you have been alone for 5 years. I am sorry." "Do not be. If I had not lost them, I would never have found you. And while I would give anything to have Sarah and Grace back, I cannot imagine my life without you and your brothers and sisters anymore." "Do you think they would have liked us? Your wife and daughter?" Ethan thought about Sarah's kindness, Grace's joy, the way they saw good in everyone, even him. "They would have loved you, all of you. And I think they would be proud of what we are building here. A family." "Yes, a family." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky darkened. One by one, the other children drifted out. Daniel sat on Ethan's other side. Michael flopped on the porch floor, staring at the stars. Lily curled in Claire's lap. And Oliver, who had spent so many weeks in silence, sat close to Ethan and spoke. "Tell us about Grace." It was the first time anyone had asked. The first time Ethan had been willing to answer. He took a breath, reached back through 5 years of grief, and found memories that did not hurt quite as much as they used to. Grace was 4 when she died, same age as Lily. She had blonde hair that her mother braided every morning. She asked 1,000 questions a day. Why is the sky blue? Where do stars go in daytime? Do chickens dream? She loved animals, loved stories, loved people, even when they did not deserve it. What happened to her? Scarlet fever. It swept through Silver Creek one November, killed 12 people in 3 weeks. Grace was sick for 2 days. The doctor said there was nothing he could do. Just keep her comfortable. Let her know she was loved. Sarah held her the whole time, sang to her, told her stories. And when Grace died, Sarah broke. She followed 3 days later, same fever, or maybe just a broken heart. "And you?" Claire asked softly. "What happened to you?" "I died too. Just took me longer to realize it. I kept breathing, kept moving. But I was gone inside. Until 24 days ago, when I heard an auctioneer selling 5 children like they were livestock. And something in me woke up, something I thought was dead. What was it? The part that still believed people were worth saving, including myself." Michael sat up. "Do you still miss them?" "Your wife and daughter. Every day, every moment. But missing them does not mean I cannot love you. The heart is bigger than we think. It has room for old grief and new joy at the same time." Oliver leaned against Ethan's side. "We miss Mama too." "I know you do." "Will it always hurt?" "Yes, but the hurt changes, gets softer. And one day you will remember her without the pain being the first thing you feel. You will remember her laugh, her stories, the way she loved you, and that will be enough." They stayed on the porch until the children grew sleepy. Maggie herded them inside, got them ready for bed, supervised the nighttime routine with military efficiency. Ethan watched through the window as she tucked each one in checking blankets, smoothing hair, offering quiet words of comfort. When she came back outside, she sat beside him. "They will be fine." "Will they?" Yes, because they have you, because they have each other, because they have something worth fighting for now. She paused. And so do you. I know. Do you? Because for 5 years you have been punishing yourself, hiding, waiting to die. But tonight I saw you live, really live, for the first time since I have known you. Ethan looked at his hands, weathered, scarred, hands that had killed, hands that now held children when they cried. Both truths existed at once. I do not know how to do this, how to be a father again. You do it the same way you do everything else, one day at a time, one moment at a time. You will make mistakes, fail sometimes, doubt yourself constantly, but you will also succeed more than you fail. And those children in there, they do not need perfect. They need present, and you are here. That is enough. What if Sterling comes back? Then we fight him again and again and again, until he realizes we will never stop, never surrender, never let him win. You did not have to do this, any of this. Why did you? Maggie looked at the stars. Because I have buried everyone I loved. My sons in the war, my grandchildren to disease, my husband to despair, and I have spent 10 years asking myself what the point was, why I survived when they did not. Tonight I found my answer. I survived so I could help you save them. So I could be part of something good, something that matters. You are part of it. You are essential to it. I know. And for the first time in a decade, I feel like my life has purpose again. They sat together until the night grew cold. Then they went inside, checked on the children one last time. 5 small bodies in 5 small beds, breathing the deep rhythms of safe sleep. Oliver clutched his blanket. Lily held her one-eyed doll. Michael had somehow ended up sideways. Daniel slept with one fist clenched, still ready to fight even in dreams. And Claire, the oldest, the protector, finally looked her age. Just a girl, not a mother, not a guardian, just a child who could rest. Ethan closed their door softly, went to his own room, the room off the kitchen that Maggie had prepared for him. It was small, simple, but it was his. He lay down on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and, for the first time in 5 years, felt something other than emptiness. He felt hope, fragile, uncertain, but real. He thought about Sarah, about Grace, about the life he had lost and the life he was building. They felt connected somehow, like the grief had carved space inside him that could now hold new love, like losing them had prepared him to save others. I hope you can see this, he whispered to ghosts who might be listening. I hope you know I am trying, that I am using everything you taught me, that I am being the man you believed I could be. No answer came, but Ethan did not need one. He knew bone deep that Sarah would approve, that Grace would be excited to have brothers and sisters, that somewhere, somehow they were at peace with the family he was creating from the ashes of the one he had lost. He closed his eyes, and for the first time since they died, Ethan Mercer slept without nightmares, without guilt, without the crushing weight of being alive when he wished he was not. He slept like a man who had found his way home. Outside, the Montana night was vast and dark and beautiful. Stars wheeled overhead in their ancient patterns. The wind whispered through grass. Somewhere a coyote called. And in a small ranch house on 60 acres of hard-won land, a broken man and 5 wounded children slept safely. They had won today. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, new reasons to doubt and fear and question. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight they were together. They were family. And that was enough. Judge Cole had given them 6 months to prove this could work. 6 months to demonstrate that blood did not make a family. That choice did. That love was stronger than law and mercy was stronger than judgment. 6 months, 180 days, each one a gift, each one a test, each one another step towards something permanent, something real, something worth fighting for. Ethan had spent 5 years dying. Now he would spend the rest of his life living, not for himself, but for 5 children who needed him, who trusted him, who called him Papa. That word, that sacred, beautiful word, it echoed in his dreams, chased away the darkness, reminded him why he woke each morning, why he tried each day, why he would never ever stop fighting to keep them safe. Papa. He had been called that before, by Grace in her small voice full of trust and love. Now, 5 new voices used that word, 5 new reasons to be worthy of it. The night deepened, the house settled, and somewhere between waking and sleeping, between grief and joy, between the man he was and the man he was becoming, Ethan Mercer finally found peace. Not the peace of forgetting, not the peace of numbness, but the peace of knowing that despite everything, despite his failures and his losses and his scars, he was exactly where he was supposed to be, with 5 children who needed him, with a fierce old woman who believed in him, with a dog named Whiskey and a ranch called home, and a future that was uncertain but possible. 6 months? They had 6 months, and Ethan would make every single day count. 6 months is both forever and an instant. August became September. Leaves turned gold and red across the Montana grassland. The children started school in Silver Creek, walking 4 miles each morning with lunch pails Maggie packed. Claire excelled at reading. Daniel discovered a talent for mathematics. Michael made friends with every child in class, his endless chatter finally finding an appreciative audience. Lily learned her letters, writing them carefully in a slate with her tongue between her teeth. And Oliver, still quiet but no longer silent, answered questions when called upon, his voice growing stronger each week. October brought the first frost. Ethan taught the boys how to prepare the ranch for winter, how to reinforce the barn, how to store hay, how to bank the house against cold winds. Daniel worked with fierce concentration, determined to master every skill. Michael asked 1,000 questions and remembered every answer. Oliver watched, learned, helped in his quiet way. November came with snow. The world turned white and clean. They celebrated Thanksgiving with a turkey Daniel had shot himself, his first successful hunt. Pride shone in the boy's eyes when Ethan told him he had done well. That night they went around the table saying what they were grateful for. When it came to Oliver's turn, he spoke clearly. "I am grateful for this family. For Papa. For home." December meant Christmas, their first Christmas together. Maggie taught Claire how to make cookies. Ethan let the children help decorate a pine tree he cut from the high country. They strung popcorn and cranberries, made ornaments from paper and ribbon. On Christmas morning they woke to simple gifts: a new doll for Lily with both eyes intact, books for Claire and Daniel, a harmonica for Michael, and for Oliver a puppy, 8 weeks old, black and white. A border collie mix that would grow into a working dog, but for now was just a bundle of soft fur and wet nose. Oliver held the puppy and cried. Not sad tears, grateful tears. He named her Grace. Ethan's chest tightened when he heard the name, but it was right. It was perfect. A way to honor what was lost while celebrating what was found. The puppy licked Oliver's face. The boy laughed, and Ethan felt Sarah's presence so strongly he almost turned around, expecting to see her standing there, smiling her approval. January brought bitter cold. School closed for 2 weeks when snow drifted 6 feet high. They stayed inside, warm and close, telling stories by the fire. Maggie taught them all how to play chess. Daniel became obsessed, studying positions late into the night. Claire learned to knit her fingers, growing steady and sure. Michael wrote a story about a boy and his chickens saving the world. Lily drew pictures of their family stick figures holding hands under a bright sun. And Oliver, with Grace the puppy, always at his side, spoke more each day. Full sentences, complete thoughts. The words that had been trapped for so long now flowing free. February meant Valentine's Day. The children made cards for each other, for Maggie, for Ethan. Oliver's card to Ethan was simple, red paper folded in half. Inside, in careful letters, 3 words: "You saved me." Ethan kept that card in his vest pocket, touched it sometimes when doubt crept in, when he wondered if he was enough, if he was doing this right. The card reminded him that he did not need to be perfect, he just needed to be present. March brought the final hearing, March 1st, 1890. 6 months to the day since Judge Cole had granted temporary guardianship. 6 months of growing, learning, healing. 6 months of becoming a family. Now they would return to that small courtroom and learn if they could stay one. The night before, Ethan could not sleep. He sat on the porch despite the cold, wrapped in a heavy coat, staring at stars that offered no answers. The door opened. Daniel stepped out, also wearing his coat. Could not sleep either. No. Daniel sat beside him, 13 now. Taller, stronger, still protective, but less angry. The rage that had burned in him had cooled into something more useful. Determination, purpose. What if the judge says no tomorrow? Then we appeal, we fight, we do not give up. But what if we lose everything? What if they separate us? Ethan looked at the boy who had become his son in every way that mattered. Then we find each other again. We do not stop looking. We do not stop trying. Because that is what family does. They do not abandon each other. You really mean that? Every word. I used to think adults were liars, that they said things they did not mean just to make you feel better. But you do not do that. When you make a promise, you keep it. I try. No, you do. In 6 months you have kept every promise. You said we would be safe. We are. You said we would stay together. We have. You said you would fight for us. You do. Every single day. Ethan felt emotion thick in his throat. You have grown up a lot. Had to. Someone needs to help when you and Maggie are old. They smiled. It was a comfortable silence, the kind only possible between people who trust each other completely. Daniel, whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know something. You are my son, not by blood, not by law yet, but by choice, and that makes it real, makes it permanent. No judge can change that. Daniel's voice broke. You are my father, the only one I have ever really had, and I am not scared anymore, because even if they take us away tomorrow, I know you will come for us. I know you will never stop fighting. Never. They sat together until the cold drove them inside. The house was dark except for lamplight in Maggie's room. She was still awake, probably praying or planning or both. The children slept peacefully, unaware of the anxiety the adults carried. That was good. That was how it should be. Let them sleep. Let them rest. Tomorrow would come soon enough. Morning arrived gray and cold. They dressed carefully. The children had grown since August. Maggie had let out hems added fabric made do with what they had. They looked like a family, felt like one, but would the law agree? The ride to Silver Creek took forever and no time at all. The courthouse looked the same worn benches, the same dusty air, but everything felt different. 6 months ago, they had been strangers hoping for mercy. Today, they were a family fighting to stay together. Judge Cole took his seat. The room fell silent. Ethan scanned the crowd. Reverend Cross was there. Dr. Peterson, Sheriff Garrett. Half the town had come to watch, some supportive, some curious, some hoping for drama. Marcus Sterling was not there. According to Maggie's sources, he had left Montana entirely. The scandal of his labor contracts had destroyed him. His mills were seized, his assets frozen. His name became synonymous with corruption. He had fled to California, where no one knew his history. Good riddance. We are here, Judge Cole began, to determine permanent guardianship of the Bennett children. Mrs. Callahan, you have submitted monthly reports. I have read them all. Would you care to summarize? Maggie stood. 6 months had aged her and rejuvenated her simultaneously. She carried herself with even more authority, now tempered by genuine affection. Your Honor, these children have thrived. All 5 attend school regularly. Claire ranks first in her class, Daniel second. Michael shows exceptional creativity. Lily has learned to read. And Oliver has overcome significant trauma to become a confident, articulate boy. They are well-fed, well-clothed, well-loved. The Mercer Ranch is not perfect, but it is home. Sheriff Garrett, your observations? The sheriff stood. I have conducted monthly inspections as ordered. The children are healthy and happy. The home is clean and well-maintained. Mr. Mercer has demonstrated consistent, responsible guardianship. Mrs. Callahan provides excellent supervision. I have no concerns about their continued placement there. Judge Cole nodded. Dr. Peterson? The doctor stood. I have examined all 5 children. They have gained appropriate weight. Show no signs of abuse or neglect. Their physical and emotional health has improved dramatically. In my medical opinion, they are receiving excellent care. Reverend Cross. The Reverend stood older now, but still strong. I have watched Ethan Mercer transform from a man hiding from life to a father embracing it. I have watched these children go from frightened orphans to confident young people. What I see is nothing short of miraculous, not because of divine intervention, but because of human commitment. These 8 souls have saved each other. To separate them now would be cruel and pointless. Judge Cole leaned back. Mr. Mercer is there. Anything you wish to add? Ethan stood. His heart pounded. His mouth was dry. But his voice, when it came, was steady. Your Honor, 6 months ago, I did not know if I could do this. Did not know if I was capable of being a father again. I had spent 5 years in grief, convinced I did not deserve happiness. But these children taught me something. They taught me that being wounded does not disqualify you from loving. It just means you understand pain, and understanding pain makes you gentler, kinder, more patient. He paused. They also taught me that family is not about biology. It is about choice, about showing up every day even when it is hard, about keeping promises even when it hurts, about loving people not because you have to, but because you cannot imagine not loving them. His voice grew stronger. I am not perfect. I make mistakes. I doubt myself constantly, but I am trying every single day, and I will keep trying for as long as they need me, which I hope is forever. Judge Cole looked at the children. Do any of you wish to speak? Claire stood, nearly 13 now, poised, confident. Your Honor, 6 months ago, I was terrified. Terrified we would be separated. Terrified no one would want us. Terrified I would fail my mother's last request to keep us together. Today, I am still scared, but not of the same things. I am scared of losing what we have built, scared of being torn away from the only real home I have ever known. Pa and Maggie have given us more than shelter. They have given us hope. Please do not take that away." Daniel stood. "I do not have fancy words, but I know this. Pa saved our lives, and we saved his. That is what family does. They save each other, over and over, as many times as it takes." Michael bounced up. "Your Honor, I wrote you a letter. Can I read it?" Judge Cole smiled slightly. "Please do." Michael unfolded a piece of paper covered in careful handwriting. "Dear Judge Cole, thank you for giving us 6 months. It was the best 6 months of my whole life. Pa taught me how to fish and how to fix fences and how to be brave even when I am scared. Maggie taught me how to read hard books and how to write stories and how to believe in myself. My brothers and sisters taught me that being loved is better than anything in the whole world. If you let us stay, I promise we will keep being good. We will keep working hard. We will keep loving each other, because that is what families do. Love, Michael Bennett." Lily stood on her chair so the judge could see her. "I like my family. I want to stay, please." Then Oliver. He walked to the front without prompting, stood straight, looked Judge Cole directly in the eye. "6 months ago, I could barely speak. The words were trapped inside by grief and fear. Pa did not force me to talk. He just waited. He showed me it was safe to try. Now I can speak. Now I can laugh. Now I can live. And that is because of Pa, because of Maggie, because of this family." He paused. "You said 6 months ago that you would decide if we could stay based on whether we were safe and loved and cared for. We are all those things. We have been all those things every single day. So please, let us stay. Let us be a family, not just for 6 more months, forever." The courtroom was silent. Judge Cole removed his glasses, wiped them, put them back on. His eyes were wet. "In 23 years on this bench, I have presided over hundreds of cases. Most are routine. Some are difficult. A few change lives. This is one of those few." He picked up his gavel. "I have watched this family for 6 months, read reports, conducted inquiries, spoken with dozens of people, and I have reached a conclusion." Everyone held their breath. "Ethan Mercer, you came before me 6 months ago, a broken man with no experience and a questionable past. Today you stand before me as a father, a real father, not perfect but present, not flawless but faithful. You have kept every promise, met every requirement, exceeded every expectation." He looked at the children. "And you 5 have demonstrated resilience, courage, and love beyond your years. You have supported each other, trusted adults who gave you reason to trust, worked hard, grown strong. You are remarkable." The gavel rose. "Therefore, it is the judgment of this court that Ethan Mercer be granted full and permanent guardianship of Claire, Daniel, Michael, Lily, and Oliver Bennett, with all rights and responsibilities thereof, equivalent in law to biological parenthood." The gavel fell. "These children are now legally and permanently your children, Mr. Mercer. May God grant you wisdom, strength, and joy in raising them. This case is closed." The courtroom erupted. People cheered, cried, applauded. Claire collapsed into Ethan's arms, sobbing. Daniel hugged Maggie, finally letting her see him cry. Michael shouted something incoherent and joyful. Lily clapped and laughed, and Oliver, quiet Oliver, who had found his voice, said clearly for everyone to hear, "We are a family, forever." Ethan held them all, his children, not by blood, not by chance, but by choice, by love, by the kind of bond that was stronger than law and deeper than biology. They were his, he was theirs. Nothing could change that now. Judge Cole came down from the bench, extended his hand. "Congratulations! You have done something remarkable here." "We all did it together. That is what makes it remarkable." They left the courthouse to find half of Silver Creek waiting outside. People who had watched this family form, who had doubted, believed, hoped along with them. Reverend Cross led them in a prayer of thanksgiving. Dr. Peterson shook Ethan's hand with genuine warmth. Even Sheriff Garrett smiled. The ride home was loud and chaotic and perfect. Michael sang. Lily told knock-knock jokes that made no sense. Daniel and Claire talked quietly about the future. Oliver held Grace the puppy and smiled. Maggie drove her own horse beside the wagon, looking satisfied and peaceful. When they reached the ranch, Whiskey limped out to greet them. Older now, slower, but still loyal. The children tumbled from the wagon, running to the house, shouting about being home, really home, forever home. Ethan stood in the yard watching them, watching his family, and for the first time since Sarah and Grace died, he felt complete. Not because the hole they left was filled, it would never be filled, but because he had found room beside that hole for new love, different love, but equally real, equally precious. That night they had a feast. Maggie outdid herself. Roast beef, fresh bread, vegetables from their own garden, apple pie with cream. They ate until they were stuffed, then ate more because they could, because this was their home, their table, their family. After dinner, Ethan suggested a walk. They went together, all 8 of them, counting Whiskey and Grace, to the hill behind the house, to the 2 graves marked with simple stones. Sarah Mercer, 1849 to 1882, beloved wife and mother. Grace Mercer, 1878 to 1882, our angel. Ethan knelt between the graves. The children gathered around. Maggie stood respectfully back. Sarah, Grace, I want you to meet some people. This is Claire, who is brave and kind and keeps us all together. This is Daniel, who is strong and loyal and learning to trust. This is Michael, who talks constantly and fills our house with joy. This is Lily, who is sweet and innocent and reminds me so much of you, Grace. And this is Oliver, who was silent but found his voice, who named his puppy after you because he knows how special that name is. His voice thickened. I know I have been gone a long time, lost in grief, hiding from life. But they found me, saved me, gave me a reason to wake up each morning. And I think you sent them. I think you knew I needed saving, knew they needed saving. So you brought us together. And for that I am grateful. Forever grateful. Claire knelt beside him, placed a hand on Sarah's stone. Thank you for taking care of him, for teaching him how to love, for making him the kind of man who would save us. We will take care of him now, we promise. One by one the others knelt, touched the stones, whispered their own words, made their own promises. When Oliver's turn came, he simply said, Thank you for the name. I will be good to her. They stayed until the sun set, until the sky turned orange and gold and purple, until stars began appearing one by one. Then they walked back to the house together, connected by invisible threads of love and loss and hope. Ethan thought about the past, about the 9 men he had killed, the violence he had done, the guilt he carried. All of it was still there, still part of him. But it did not define him anymore. His children defined him, his choice to save them, his commitment to keep saving them every single day. He thought about the future, about watching them grow, about Claire becoming a woman, Daniel becoming a man, Michael becoming whatever his wild imagination led him to, Lily growing up safe and loved, Oliver speaking freely, confidently, without fear, about weddings and grandchildren and growing old, surrounded by the family he thought he would never have again. 25 years, that is what he would have. 25 years of watching them live, love, succeed, struggle, triumph. 25 years of being their father, their foundation, their constant. 25 years of proving that redemption was real, that second chances existed, that love was stronger than blood. But that was the future. Tonight was the present, and the present was enough, more than enough. It was everything. Ethan stood, stretched, looked at Maggie. Thank you for everything, for believing in us, for fighting for us, for becoming family. The pleasure has been entirely mine. He went inside, checked on each child one final time. They slept peacefully, safe in the knowledge that they were home, really home, forever home. He touched each head gently, whispered good night, pulled blankets higher, did all the small rituals of parenthood that he had thought he would never do again. In his own room, Ethan lay down and closed his eyes. He thought about auction blocks and courtrooms, about broken children and broken men, about $500 and a decision made in 5 seconds, about how sometimes the smallest choices have the biggest consequences, about how sometimes saving others is the only way to save yourself. He thought about family, not the family he was born into, not even the family he had created with Sarah, but this family, this impossible, beautiful, perfect family built from loss and hope and the stubborn refusal to give up. And as sleep came gentle and kind, Ethan Mercer smiled. Because for the first time in 7 years, since before Sarah got sick, since before Grace died, since before grief consumed everything, he was truly, completely, absolutely happy. They were home. They were together. They were forever. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 25 years passed like a river, steady, relentless, beautiful. Montana Territory became Montana State in 1889. Silver Creek grew from a dusty town into a thriving community. The Mercer Ranch expanded from 60 acres to 200, and the 5 children who had stood on an auction block in July 1887 became adults who carried that memory with pride, not shame. Summer 1912, July 15th, 25 years to the day since the auction. Claire Mercer Harrison, 37 years old, arrived at the ranch with her husband Thomas and their 3 children. She was a school teacher now, principal of Silver Creek Elementary, Her students loved her because she never forgot what it felt like to be dismissed, ignored, told you were worthless. She saw every child, believed in every child, saved more than she would ever know. Daniel Mercer, 35, rode up on horseback, his deputy sheriff badge gleaming in the sun. He had married Anna Peterson, the doctor's daughter. They had 2 sons who were as protective and loyal as their father. Daniel still had a temper, but he had learned to channel it into justice instead of rage. He protected people now, the way Ethan had protected him. Michael Mercer, 33, drove a wagon loaded with his wife Emma and their 4 children. He ran the largest chicken farm in Montana. 200 birds. He still talked to every single one, still told them stories, still believed joy was the greatest gift you could give the world. His laughter filled every room he entered. Oliver Mercer, 31, arrived with his wife Grace, named for Ethan's daughter, and their son Ethan, named for his father. Oliver taught at the School for the Deaf in Helena. He helped children find their voices, whether spoken or signed. He never forgot the gift of patience, of waiting, of letting healing happen in its own time. Lily Mercer, 29, still lived at the ranch. She had never married, had no interest. She was a nurse in Silver Creek, tending to the sick with gentle hands and a kind heart. She remembered being 4 years old and believing in goodness despite everything. She still believed, still saw the best in people, still sang that wordless song when she thought no one was listening. And Margaret Callahan, 87 years old now, sat in her rocking chair on the porch, knitting something for another great-grandchild, her silver hair still pinned in that severe bun, her eyes still sharp and missing nothing. The house was chaos, 15 people, 10 children running between adults. Whiskey had died years ago, but Grace, the border collie, was there, older now, but still patient, with grabbing hands. A new puppy, another border collie, tumbled after the children, barking with pure joy. Ethan Mercer stood in the yard watching his family arrive. 64 years old, hair white, face weathered, body slower. But his eyes were alive in a way they had not been for the first 39 years of his life. Claire reached him first, hugged him tight. "Happy anniversary, Pa." Anniversary. 25 years since you bought us, since you saved us, since everything changed. One by one they all gathered. His children, his grandchildren. Maggie. They stood together in the July sun on the same patch of ground where he had first brought 5 terrified orphans a quarter-century ago. "Speech?" Michael called. "Pa has to make a speech." Ethan shook his head. He had never been good with words, but looking at these faces, these people who existed because one man at an auction had made a decision, in 5 seconds he found something to say. 25 years ago, I was dying. Not physically, but in every way that mattered. I had given up, stopped trying, stopped living. Then I heard a hammer fall at an auction, saw 5 children standing on a platform, and something inside me that I thought was dead woke up. I did not save you that day. You saved me, and you have been saving me every day since. Thank you for giving me a reason to live. Thank you for being my family. Thank you for choosing me as much as I chose you." His voice broke. Claire was crying. Daniel's jaw worked. Michael was openly sobbing. Lily held Maggie's hand. Oliver stepped forward. "We have something for you, Pa." He pulled out a photograph, new, professional, all of them together. 15 people arranged carefully, 3 generations, and in the center, Ethan with his 5 children, now adults, surrounding him. "For your wall, so you remember, always." Ethan took the photograph with shaking hands, looked at these faces, these beautiful, strong, living faces, proof that wounded souls could heal, that lost people could be found, that families could be built from choice and love instead of blood and obligation. That night they had the feast Maggie had prepared. Roast beef, potatoes, fresh bread, pies, too much food, too much noise, too much love. Perfect. After dinner, Ethan walked to the hill behind the house, to the 2 graves he visited every week for 25 years. Someone had already been there. Fresh flowers lay on both stones. He knelt between Sarah and Grace. "I brought the family to meet you again. They are all here, all grown, all happy, all safe. I kept my promise. I kept them together. I loved them the way you taught me to love, and I hope you are proud." The wind whispered through grass. Somewhere a bird sang, and Ethan felt, as he always did here, that they were listening, that they approved, that they had sent those 5 children to him, knowing what both he and they needed. He stood, turned, found Oliver standing behind him with the little Ethan, his son, holding his hand. "Thought you might want company," Oliver said. "Always." They walked back together. 3 generations, connected by love and loss and the stubborn refusal to give up on each other. The house glowed with lamplight. Laughter drifted through open windows. Children played in the yard. Adults talked on the porch. Maggie supervised everything with benevolent authority. This was what he had bought for $500 and every acre he owned. Not 5 children, but a future, a legacy, proof that one decision made in desperation and hope could change everything. Ethan Mercer climbed the porch steps, sat in his chair, looked at his family, his impossible, beautiful, perfect family, and smiled. 25 years. And he would treasure every single day of the next 25 if he was lucky enough to get them. But even if tomorrow was his last day, he would die happy, because he had lived, really lived, not just survived, not just existed, but lived with purpose and love and joy. He had been given a second chance, and he had not wasted it. The stars came out. The children were herded to bed protesting and giggling. The adults talked late into the night, sharing stories, making plans, being family. And in a small ranch house in Montana, on land that had grown from 60 acres to 200, surrounded by people who loved him and whom he loved beyond measure, Ethan Mercer finally understood what Sarah had tried to tell him all those years ago. Everyone deserves a second chance, even him, especially him. And second chances, when you take them, when you fight for them, when you refuse to waste them, can become the best part of your life. He closed his eyes, listened to his family, and slept the sleep of a man at peace.